This is the 50th episode of the Let's Eat Grandma Career Warrior podcast. Wow, this is a big deal for us. That's half a century's worth of episodes. If we posted an episode for every year, it would be 50 years. Okay, that's kind of random, but whatever. It's also Independence Day for a country that has 50 stars on its flag, so could not have had this come together at a better moment. It's quite serendipitous. So we do have a special announcement for this episode, and it has to do with the improvement of the programming, which is a very exciting change that I am excited to make next week. But first, I just had to make a really sincere, just had to get a point across, and that's thank you. Like, seriously, thank you a million times over for all of you listeners who are enjoying the podcast and for those who are listening on a regular basis. You are the reason why this is my dream job. I love doing this Career Warrior podcast a lot. And if there was no one listening to it or if there was no one giving feedback, then I would not enjoy it as much, because who wants to talk into a microphone just to hear themselves talk? Not me. So you are the reason why I'm happy and that this is my dream job. So thank you so much. And, I'll be real. We did our first episode 2 years ago, and there was just this huge break after it because it takes a lot of time and effort to produce a podcast. And the reason why we started is because, podcasting, it's becoming a thing. This could be an awesome thing for Let's Eat Grandma to get her name out. But after our second episode, third episode, and as these episodes increased week after week, I quickly realized that, my favorite part about doing these episodes was being able to, search for the truth on what makes a really good job search, on what improves one's career. And in pursuit of that truth, sharing that knowledge with other people became a really big thing for me. So that's why I love what we're doing with this podcast. And that's why I hope you love listening to this podcast on a weekly basis. And I can't thank you enough for your loyalty and your subscribership. So to cut right to the chase here on what we're going to do to improve this podcast, we're improving the programming. We are going to be publishing episodes on Monday and Thursday. So 2 episodes per week instead of the just one that we've been putting out. And we are going to shorten the average length of the episodes. And I'll go into why we're going to do that in a little bit and why that's going to benefit you. At the end of this podcast episode, if you stick around, I will show you how you can make a difference and impact the programming of this podcast. But I had a really amazing discovery when I was checking out the analytics of our episodes, and I popped open iTunes podcast analytics, and I found that a really strong percentage of people who listen to this podcast were actual subscribers. To me, that says a really important thing. That says that people aren't just listening to this podcast episode just once. They're listening to it again and again. And that to me is really important because I never really did this to not start developing meaningful relationships with you guys. I didn't do it to create one-off episodes that you can, check out once and then go check another podcast out. The real main objective for me is to actually do episodes and create relationships with you and have this build over time. You can't possibly cover all there is in regards to job strategy and career in one episode. It just takes time. So the fact that there was significant subscribership means it really inspired me to want to drive that up more and more. So I'm inspired to create even more subscribers and more loyalty among you guys and gals on basically getting a strong following down and continuing to double down on the loyalty that I have of you listening right now. So, like I said, starting next week, we're going to be regularly doubling down on weekly episodes and cut down the length of each episode. That means that each episode is going to be more value-packed, possibly entertaining, possibly humorous, and you will have way more options when it comes to learning stuff to improve your career. More episodes, what that means is 3 things. Number 1, we're going to have the chance to cover more targeted and specific topics. So it would be a weird thing that wouldn't make a lot of sense if we got very specific with a topic and it was like the only episode for the week. So for instance, how to improve your career for salespeople. That's clearly not going to apply for all the job seekers who are listening to this podcast or career warriors who are listening to this podcast. So it's going to give the chance to give one very specific topic and another one that's a little bit more catch-all for people looking to improve their careers. Number 2, like I said, it's going to drive more loyalty and consistent listenership. So I don't know about you all, but if I find a podcast that I really like, I like to not have to wait a whole week to get another chance to listen to an episode. I would rather have daily, which to be honest, I think daily is too much for us right now. I don't know if I'd have time for anything else in life, but we are going to go twice weekly. So you will have more airtime and the chance to connect on Monday mornings and Thursday mornings, so twice a week. How's that sound? Good. Thing number 3 for what this is going to do, it's going to increase the retention of each specific episode. When I was looking at those analytics, I had a really this probably shouldn't even be an epiphany. It should be obvious. It's what I realized when I was checking out the analytics. So these shorter episodes we had a much stronger retention rate in the actual episode. So retention rate is basically when you can see your listener drop off is. Any podcaster's goal should be to have the highest retention possible for your episodes. And no, I'm not going to have perfect retention every time around, but I believe that especially towards the end of the episodes when things are really heating up, I don't want people to drop off during those messages. And the average commute in the United States, I believe, is between 30 and 35 minutes. So it just makes a lot of sense to have episodes cut down to the 30 to 35 minute range. And I will probably be cutting down episodes more than that. So we should be seeing, anywhere from the 10-minute range, which is closer to this one, to the 25, 30-minute range. If we have to go deeper, we'll go deeper, especially if it's a heavy topic that involves a lot of thought and introspection. Then we might get closer again to the 45, 50-minute range. But for the most part, you should be seeing more value-packed, concise episodes, which is exactly how I feel about resumes. I'm a resume writer, the owner of a resume company, so time to practice what I preach. All right, few KPIs or key performance indicators for you podcast geeks. And if I don't see this is working, I will go back to the original format, but my KPIs will tell me, number 1, consumption. I want to see consumption increase to at least 75%, which is actually very good all across the board for our average podcast. Number 2, I want to see views per episode increase with an equal or higher subscribership percentage on iTunes. So that will show me if there's actual loyalty and there's actual subscribers listening and not a bunch of one-offs. I never did this because, I wanted more views or more downloads. No, I'd rather have more actual followers who are developing a relationship on a weekly basis. And number 3, I would love more customers and more people to come to the Let's Eat Grandma's doors, metaphorical doors, who heard about us through the Career Warrior podcast. I believe the best customers that we have are the ones who genuinely put an effort into their careers, which are exactly the type of people who would listen to this podcast. So with those 3 metrics, I will look at regularly, religiously, to make sure that this podcast is on track for the next 50 plus episodes. All right, here is your call to action. I mentioned this at the beginning of the episode, but probably the most exciting part for you all. I want to give all of you the chance to really influence the content. Since we are a smaller but quickly growing podcast, now is the prime time. If you want the chance to influence this podcast, now is the time. So I read everything, guys. All the emails that you send to projects@letseatgrandma.com, I do read. So I urge you, in fact, if you are a regular listener especially, I do urge you to email in at projects, that's PROJECTS, at letseatgrandma.com. Email us some content topic ideas for episodes. So don't try to think too much like a marketer, like, oh, what everyone else listens to. No, I want to hear what you want to listen to because it's your opinion that counts. And if it's good enough, and if I think everyone else would listen to it, then I'm going to do the episode. That's the way it works. So we're turning this into a contest. Go ahead and email in your ideas. I will read all of them, and I will select a winner to have a free personalized consultation with me on your resume and LinkedIn profile. And I will give you $150 off a resume service. And you can do a lot with $150 on our packages. In fact, that would take the prices down very significantly. Why are we not doing it for free? Well, I actually fervently believe that you should pay something to get a little bit of buy-in. I've noticed that there's a little bit of a difference between people who come in for free and people who at least make a little bit of investment on their part. They're a little bit more committed. So that's why we're going to give you $150 off of any one of our packages if we select you as the best episode idea. Regardless or not, if you think you're going to win, go ahead and email us either way with your ideas because I will read them, and I am just so ecstatic to hear from you all. All right, so this is episode 50, guys. After this, everything changes. It's going to get real, and it's going to get better and better as this podcast grows and explodes over the next year or so. Can't thank you enough for listening to me and putting up with my antics and all sorts of the goofy stuff that I say. Thank you for everything. Love you all. Go out and have an awesome July 4th week/weekend if that's what you're doing. And if you are international, sorry for bringing up July 4th, but it's a big deal here in the U.S. And I hope you all are enjoying your week as well. All right, guys, take care and look out for that next episode Monday morning. And that's when I'll see you next time.